Hi, it's Toina with the Biblical Understanding of American Politics. Do you know that Yahweh, our Heavenly Father, is notorious for letting us know something is coming before it comes, before it makes its appearance or rears its ugly head? Well, today, I want to make sure that you're aware that He is giving us a warning and letting us know what's coming. Do you understand the concept of the 10th man?
Like that, I'd be skeptical as well. In the 30s, Jews refused to believe they could be sent to concentration camps. In 72, we refused to fathom we'd be massacred in the Olympics. In the month before October 1973, we saw Arab troop movements, and we unanimously agreed they didn't pose a threat. Well, a month later, the Arab attack almost drove us into the sea. So we decided to make a change.
Change.
The 10th man. If 9 of us look at the same information and arrive at the exact same conclusion, it's the duty of the 10th man to disagree. No matter how improbable it may seem, the 10th man has to start digging with the assumption that the other 9 are wrong.
So, for those of you who didn't catch that, I want to make sure you understand. The concept of the 10th man is as follows. If there's 10 people in the group and 9 people believe in one way, it is the obligation of the 10th man to start working from an entirely different premise. And that's what we've decided to do. We decided that since everybody is talking about the election and what happened and evaluating how Kamala lost and doing these things that really are not important to what is coming, that we would go from a different angle. Instead of having the same conversations that everybody else is having, we came from the perspective of, okay, what is it that we need to be looking at and preparing people for? What are the atrocities that could be coming on us within that first week, starting that first week, in the event that what people believe is happening is wrong? And that's what brings us to our biblical scripture for today. Ezekiel chapter 33, verses 1 through 9. Again, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, speak to the children of thy people, and say unto them, When I bring the sword upon a land, if the people of the land take a man of their coasts, and set him for their watchman, if when he seeth the sword come upon the land, he blow the trumpet and warn the people, then whosoever heareth the sound of the trumpet and taketh not warning, if the sword come and take him away, his blood shall be upon his own head. He heard the sound of the trumpet and took not warning, his blood shall be upon him. But he that taketh warning shall deliver his soul. But if the watchman see the sword come, and blow not the trumpet, and the people be not warned, if the sword come and take any person from among them, he is taken away in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at the watchman's hand. So thou, O son of man, I have set thee a watchman unto the house of Israel. Therefore, thou shalt hear the word at my mouth, and warn them for me. When I say unto the wicked, O wicked man, thou shalt surely die, if thou dost not speak to warn the wicked from his way, that wicked man shall die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at thine hand. Nevertheless, if thou warn the wicked of his way in front of it, if he do not turn from his way, he shall die in his iniquity, but thou hast delivered thy soul. These verses are quite serious. If you are asked to sound an alarm and you choose not to sound that alarm, the blood of the people is on you. That means that you carry your sin and theirs. You don't want to be in that position. And we certainly didn't want to be in that position. And so we decided we would issue the warning because there are some things that are coming to this US that we have to understand are a nightmare. We are walking through a war. Now, this is not a war that most of us signed up for. It's just a war that we got. When Kamala Harris lost the election, we lost the battle. We did not lose the war. The fact of the matter is that America will ultimately revert back to the democracy that it is because there will be people who fight. But there are some things I want to make sure you're aware of. That there are a lot of people who are going to preserve themselves. They're going to make amends with the demon, and they're going to continue to hold his hand and to walk with him through this. And no matter what, he will turn on them and rend them to pieces. So, Morning Joe was a couple who decided that, in light of the fact that there have been warnings about people coming against political enemies, they decided to sit and have a meeting with someone. And that someone, of course, was 45. And so, in their own words, they said, there was a lot we didn't agree on, but we decided that we would let conversation begin. You see, I want you to understand something that's really, really big here. There are a lot of Caucasians talking about how we have to do and form a resistance. But I want you to understand something about that resistance. They can have that resistance. They can bring back democracy. But those of us who do not look like them, us being a part of this battle, especially in the beginning, in the middle, is going to be a nightmare because we are the ones that they are after. We are the ones that are the vermin in their eyes. This is not a new thing. This isn't something that America hasn't been dealing with for years. For years, racists have been talking about how Black people aren't smart and how these Mexicans are dirty and that other people are fresh off the boat. Whether you're talking about someone who's Filipino, who's Chinese, Japanese, who's Indian, who is Latino, or who is Black, you're talking about the same thing in the eyes of these racists. So Vivek Ramaswamy was just given a place in part of the dismantling of the federal government. What Vivek doesn't understand is that he's a pawn in the game. And because he happens to be a billionaire, he thinks that that makes him immune to what's coming to this country. What he's forgetting is that at the end of the day, he's not a white man. And white is not necessarily based off of your definition by federal guidelines. It's based off of what you look like. You see, there are a lot of people coming up here who are going to die. There are people that you love that after this inauguration, they won't be here anymore. We are watching in real time the dismantling of a country that all of us love, that all of us have worked with. And while that is absolutely devastating, and it's nothing that I don't myself have to deal with on a regular basis, it's only temporary. And the reason I can tell you that it's only temporary is because the Bible's very clear. Nobody owns the land. So while the American-bred Europeans believe that this is their country and that they have the right to take it, they are mistaken. You see, these people who've called themselves Christians, these people who have talked about, oh, Jesus is coming for you, they have all cast themselves into the pit. All of them have, because they stood and sat in the judgment seat of Christ, a seat they did not have the right to sit in. And they have put forth plagues and curses and all of these things upon other people that now will be revisited right back to them. It will take time. And it won't bring back the people that you love who you lose. But I want you to understand that if you are from this country and you decide, you know what, now's the time for me to go before this happens, that's the wisest decision you can make. You can fight from abroad, I promise you. But there's no reason to have to walk through watching the death of your children, the rape, the pillage, the hangings, the burnings, all the things that we have seen throughout history that now begin to regurgitate themselves. People who think that they are immune will be some of the first people that get taken. White people who think that they are immune will ultimately be killed, because at some point they will make a mistake and speak out against the government. And guess what? Someone will turn them in and they will die. It's what we're dealing with. It's the hand that we've been dealt. It doesn't matter that we warned people it was coming. They chose not to believe. You can't do anything about what people chose. You can only do what you can do. Right now would be one of the easiest times to put your head in the sand, but that will be the worst thing, and that ultimately will lead to a faster death. Your job right now is to focus on what it's going to be like when America comes back. What is the America that you want to see happen? What is the America that you believe in when all these racists and all these people who spew nothing but hate lose their place at the head of the table? Because that day is coming. Many people will tell you, oh, no, it's not going anywhere. It's not doing any. Okay, they can sit back and tell you that. But we're here to warn you that this is what's coming. Before we move to our next section, I want to tell you a quick story. Just a reminder. When Noah was building the ark, it had not yet rained. And people thought this man was a lunatic. He loaded it up. All the animals went in 2 by 2. His family was on the boat. And I want to remind you who closed that boat. It was Yahweh, the Heavenly Father, who closed up the boat. And after a short while, he let that rain fall. And all those people who've been talking all that mess started running. And they had no way in. It's no different today than what was going on in Noah's day. Let's talk a little more and build an understanding of what's coming.
Chance. After this, there is no turning back. You take the blue pill, the story ends. You wake up in your bed and believe whatever you want to believe. You take the red pill, you stay in Wonderland. And I show you how deep the rabbit hole goes. Remember, all I'm offering is the truth, nothing more.
All I'm offering you is the truth. If you don't really want to hear the truth, stop here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. But stop here, because the hole we're going to go down is darker and deeper than anything you've gone through before. If you're still here, then let's get moving. So we started with an evaluation of history. If we were going to be the 10th man, we needed to understand some things. What was the real understanding of the Constitution? Is it possible to upend a Constitution and to completely terminate it without going through the courts? The fact of the matter is yes. If we have set up a system, as hard as people can make it, there are certain powers that a president has that when they act, nothing can be done. And in light of the Supreme Court decision recently, this 47 now gets to act as though he is the king of America. There have been other people in America who thought they were all that and going to take away democracy, but they didn't have all the other pieces in place. This particular administration, because of the length of time they have been explaining, they have been developing this, they have all the pieces pretty much in place. From the militia groups they're training out here in these red states to be able to go and attack the blue states, all of them. They are in process, they are already working, and they are ready to release as soon as Trump walks into and takes office on January 20th, 2025. Now, for some of you, you'll say this is scary and I freeze. Listen, I understand freezing. Nobody freezes better than I do. But this is the time to start leaning into your creativity and coming up with all the reasons why you can make this happen. You need to put people in your ear who are going to remind you that this can be done. And then you need to move forward, because staying here is not going to result in success. There are some people who will ignore this, and the price they will pay is high, because you're dealing with frightened and insecure people who are nasty to their core. They are a level of evil that most of us have never ever looked into before. This is a long and methodical game. We have said that over and over. Nothing has changed. So I want to remind you of some of America's more shining times in history. Greenwood District, Tulsa, Oklahoma, also known as Black Wall Street. Wilmington, North Carolina, 1869. OC, Florida, and Rosewood, Florida. All of these were black towns that were highly successful. And when white people decided that they weren't making enough money, they went through and they burned them down. See, I want to tell you something about understanding history. You have to listen. If you are not a threat to me, I don't waste my time with you. Okay, let me tell you a story. You know, a lot of you are going to have some nasty things to say, so keep them out of the comments. We're not interested. We'll just block you. But I want to tell you about this relationship I once had with a young man, he and I. This was years ago. And this particular man, I knew I was sent to work with. That was it. I was sent to work with him. And so whenever he would have other females around, he would get really weird and he would try to hide them. And so one day he and I had a conversation in which I had to set him quite straight. And I explained to him, honey, let me help you understand something. You don't need to hide your little girls from me. I got more talent in the tip of my pinky nail than they have in their entire body. I am unconcerned about the females you spend your time with. 20 years later, do you know who he was still calling? Where were those other people? Yeah. Do you think anybody even remembered their name? You see, there are certain things that when you know, you know. You don't have to worry about it. Listen, I didn't have to be romantic. He just had some things he needed to deal with. And so I knew that I was the one who was sent there to help him deal with those things. Okay, so let's deal with them. Let's knock them out of the park, get them done. And ultimately, that was what we did. And then we went our separate ways. So he's living his life, I'm living my life, and nary the two think about each other. I share this story with you because nothing about that man, nothing that he did, anything ever was a problem for me. I didn't have anything to lose. Him being successful did not mean I was less successful. So let me give you another example. 45's new friend who owns that company called X. Yes, there are some people who just shall remain nameless, who offered to sire a child with Taylor Swift against her will. Um, that individual is a multi-billionaire. So is Tyler Perry. So is Oprah. They're all still billionaires. Here's the thing. Tyler Perry and Oprah being billionaires is not costing that friend of 45's anything. There is a misconception and a lie that these groups live by that they are unwilling to let go of. It is not a you have to lose so I can win society that we live in. Wilmington, North Carolina in the 1800s proved that when people of color and whites were working in concert with one another and successfully building a town. The fact of the matter is that all of us are here with the ability to get better, to do better, to be better, to not need to have government plans and government programs. Now, some people will say, oh, well, it's the government programs that made people lazy. No, it's the constant abuse that has made people lazy. And the thing that is really frustrating that has happened within different communities, all communities of color, is that they think that the closer they get to white, the better they are. I challenge you and say that the further away you get from white, the better off and more successful you will be. You can partner with all people, Black, white, Latino, but you have to understand that each and every group has their issues. White people are terribly insecure. They have issues that none of us deal with. They have conversations in which they lie to each other. When you start dealing with those who have darker complexions, y'all don't waste your time lying to one another. If you don't like something, you go, that's ugly. No, I'm not interested in that. And the problem is solved. It's over. It's dealt with, and nobody ever thinks about it again. And ironically, nobody's feelings are hurt. But what is it that Caucasians do? All of us are aware of it, including those of you who are Caucasian. You take things and you hold on to them and you plot and you work and you find ways to get back. Now, those of you who have things going for you, you don't waste your time. Those of you who love life, you don't waste your time with that. It's your counterparts who don't love life and who don't have the same mindset as you that think anything that is different must be destroyed. It's part of that culture. This is not about all people because nothing can be attributed to all people for any reason. But if you understand that the people behind what is coming on the US, this is their mentality, then you begin to see the reason and the logic that we can come to you and say, it's time to take that vacation you've been waiting to take. It's time to not be in the US for a period, for a season. Because what you're looking at is a repeat of what they have done historically. You know, it's be funny, before the election, I had a conversation with my boss and I said, there's X number of Black millionaires and billionaires being made every day. This is getting ready to be a problem. And lo and behold, what happened? And I want to tell you what the irony of it is. These people who spend so much time hating people of color because of the things that they acquire, they could be doing the same thing if they would stop sitting on their couch drinking beer every night after work. Get off your butt and go do something. How about you focus on that instead of focusing on what other people are doing? The system is rigged. You are correct. But your anger with Blacks, your angers with Latinos, It's because they learned how to survive even within your system that was rigged only for them to fail. You see, while these people sit back on these programs, on these platforms, and people let them spew their rants about how we are not smart, we are not this, I would like you to know that from the streets, Tyler Perry came up and bought Fort McPherson and turned it into a movie studio. And instead of celebrating him, you sit back and go, yeah, well, somebody helped him. Have you ever listened to the man? No, nobody helped him. His own mother wanted him to go get a job at the phone company because she was worried about him chasing his dream. And when she got in trouble, he was right there. He didn't spend every day sitting on his couch drinking beer or cases of beer at the end of work. You've been given the same exact opportunities that everybody else was given, but what? Because of your own laziness, you won't get up? Well, I don't know how. Then you find the people who would have helped you get there. Every single decision you've made is a decision that you made. Nobody made it for you. Nobody took anything from you. Nobody removed anything from you. You used things at your disposal and never chose to make them legal, never chose to make them solid. Somebody comes along and has the ability to educate and work through a system that was already available for you, and now you're mad? Is it their fault or is it yours because you didn't care enough to educate yourself? There were always people who were willing to help you. There were always people who were willing to give you the information you needed to climb to the next level. What made you choose not to take it? You see, now you've got this new system coming in with Trump, and guess what? You think it's going to be different? It won't be. In fact, it'll be worse because now you won't have anyone who's there to back you up. So, we've read Project 2025 in its entirety 3 different times. We've gone through and been tortured with every video on Agenda 47. That is just appalling. We've dealt with Schedule F. We've been given access to the first 180 days to figure out what's going on. We evaluated the length of time that this whole thing has been planned. And finally, we started doing evaluations of the spoken language, specifically of the term vermin, and matched it to information from World War II. Finally, we started looking at current day post articles, things that were coming out, and began to see the unfolding and perpetuation of stereotypes and untruths.
That they don't believe something can happen until it already has. It's not stupidity or weakness. It's just human nature.
America has a history of hate. The people who came here, the Indians, used to say that the white man spoke with forked tongue because when they wanted something, they were great. But when they thought they didn't need you anymore, they would turn on you. This has been a history within this country. You know, I can give you a history lesson, but the fact of the matter is that most of you know it. For those of you who are not of the Caucasian persuasion, I again warn you as clearly as possible, it's time to make an exodus. Take some time, go experience and explore the world. Get your stuff together before you do. Because one of the things I want you to understand is this. Their number one goal is to be rid of Black people. Now, don't misunderstand. While there are a lot of you they will kill, the ones of you who will become submissive to their way of life, oh no, they're not trying to kill you. They are trying to enslave you and ensure that you don't have any way to the top. You'll be back to being the boy when you're 30 years their senior. This is the world that they're creating. This is the world they think will stand. That's what you're looking at. So many of you won't die, but I'll tell you what they will do. They'll take away all your belongings. And when they take away your citizenship rights, they will take your bank accounts and they will keep them because now they are no longer required to give them to you. These are things that you need to understand are coming. And now is the time to start making accommodations for those things. What are you going to do? What's your plan? How are you going to succeed in spite of what is going on? You see, some of you won't bother to listen and you'll become victims to the system. Some of you will make different choices. But I am telling you, I am warning you that this is what they're doing. This is ultimately the goal. And if you understand what that goal is, what their plan is to remove all people of color, to take away their right to citizenship, to ensure that they can no longer be here, then you can work within that system to make sure that you have success no matter where you go. Them taking away your citizenship is extremely hurtful. It makes you want to be emotional, but it is not the end of the world. And it is not forever. It's just until this current regime can be removed. And believe me when I tell you, within their plan, there are many areas of mistakes, many areas. But this is a fight where we have to rely on our allies to be at the forefront so that we can bring up the rear. When they get tired and bring it to a place that the rest of us can come back home in mass number and make it so that now we can take it all the way through, that's a very different sitting. And now you're dealing with a different level of power. I don't want you to feel bad for these Trumpers. They've made their beds. This MAGA community, the religious community, the pastors who sat up here and preached hate, who allowed a man who raped 13-year-old girls, who has a history of pedophilia, who was part of Jeffrey Epstein's crew, who made t-shirts about I'm voting for felons in 2024. These people who stood in front of congregations with God's people and put blood on their hands when they misinformed them for money. Franklin Graham, the guy at Focus on the Family, James Dobson, Jeffries, these Caucasian pastors, and that's just 3 of them. There were 7 total that they promised to make a household name as long as they bought into this agenda. All of those, they're dead. This is their one and only time that they are riding on this one. So those guys need to go hit their knees and repent to their father and realize the mistake that they've made. Because unless you guys begin to look at this, no matter how big you think you are, God is 60, 100 times bigger than you will ever be. And if you are not willing to deal with your sin, if you are not willing to acknowledge your sin, you have an entirely different problem. You have allowed hatred. You have allowed rage. You have allowed people of filth and muck and mire, the people who put Jesus to death, to rise up in this country. You allowed hate to reign supreme. You will answer for that. Read the book. If you preach it, why are you not reading it? Everything that is going on right now is against the Bible. And how you can look at that and justify with what your actions are, with what you're saying, with what you're doing, how you can justify these things is completely beyond me. But I want you to know you're on the wrong side of the Father. And you don't have to believe me. Just watch how he deals with you. You know, he's perfectly capable of speaking for himself. What's coming on the U.S. is very simple. As they begin to remove their people of color, the opportunities that they have, the involvements that they have, the growth that they've seen will begin to stumble. They think they will become a Christian nation. But as those of us begin to leave, some who are true believers, but others who sadly cry their way out of this home, the things that they think they have will begin to fall apart. And now you'll see the land riddled with natural disasters. You'll see it riddled with famine and disease and all these things. And you're going to have to understand they brought it on themselves. And you've got to let them go. So with that, I'm going to close out tonight. And I'm going to say to you that despite the fact that this situation is extremely sad and it's heart-wrenching and it's gut-wrenching, if you are a person of color, it's time to go. Go experience another part of the world. I'm not telling you to go make yourself a citizen. I don't know how long this is going to take. God works in his own time schedule. Believe me when I tell you, I wish he would give me a like document. Okay, on this day, you're going to go do this. On this day, you're going to go do that. And then I need you back home on this day. It doesn't work that way. Sometimes you got to go for a while. And sometimes what you think will be a while is only a short time. We don't know what that's going to be. We don't know. So, the thing I want you to be aware of is this. The media has begun to comply with Donald Trump. And so they are bringing out all this stuff that Kamala Harris is alleged to do. The New York Times wrote an article about how Kamala Harris spent $1.5 billion in 15 weeks. Well, I'm sorry. Is there any question how she spent it? She was campaigning, but they try to make it sound like she did something wrong. Listen, the white agenda at this point amongst those who are part of that evil group is going to be to defame any person of color that they can. The mindset behind that is if they can poison you against those individuals, when they come through and kill them, you will be willing to give them up because you too will see them as the vermin that they try to portray them to be. Your job right now is to believe none of what you hear and only a portion of what you see. Find a way to go back and study. We will always leave Project 2025 on our website. The audiobook is on our YouTube channel. Go listen to it and read it. Understand what you're going to be dealing with. These are all things that are happening. And instead of taking a stand and fighting for what's right, a lot of people are going to fall off by the wayside. In the end, you have to wait to see who's going to fall off, who shakes out, and who's still going to be there. I got to run for tonight, but I'll see you next week.
Spitting venom that sealed our fate. Your words cut deep, but they couldn't kill the strength in me. You couldn't steal. So thank you for the beatings. Thank you for the pain, for the lies you told that drove me insane. Your darkness built a fire, made me stand tall. The mess you made taught me to rise from it all. Oh, thank you for the mess, it made me the best.